So today we're going to shift gears and we're going to move away from exercise, and we're going to talk about 3 ways to help you look better naked. I mean, let's be honest, who doesn't want to look better naked? So let me share with you that 80% of how you look depends on the nutrition that's going through your mouth and into your body. You can exercise all you want, and exercise is great from a wellness perspective. There's many benefits to exercise and strength training and cardio, having a healthy heart. But that is the small piece of the puzzle. The bigger piece of the puzzle is the nutrition, because we all eat and we all need to eat. And oftentimes, if we are not eating the right things to fuel our body and our brain, we end up not looking so great. We end up not feeling so good either. So let me start off with 3 major categories, and then I'm going to break down each one a little bit more just to give you more information and more background so you can take away from today and start implementing and making changes with your nutrition habits. So the first major category is carbohydrates or carbs. Now, there's 2 types of carbohydrates. There's your starch, which are your breads, your rice, your potatoes, your pasta, your grains. And then there's your fibers, which are your vegetables and your fruits. Now, you can guess, folks, which one you should have more of. Well, I'm not gonna make you guess. You want to be having more of your fibrous vegetables, which are more your vegetables and your fruits. So one thing I want to stress with you, as important as critical as vitamins are, you want to be having a low carb lifestyle. If you want to look better naked, you do not, and I repeat, you do not want to go on a diet where you cut calories or you starve yourself. What you want to shift, and let's just use this as a simple example. Say you're eating 2,000 calories a day. If you switched between your carbs, your proteins, and your fat, if you changed those percentages and you shifted your carbs to lower, like 20-25% versus most of us typically have our carbs between 40 and 60%, in some cases higher. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is shift your carbs for the next 3 months. So from whenever you're watching this, add 3 months, or if you want to get through the holidays and start fresh in January, that's great. So January, February, March, I want you to adopt a low carb lifestyle. And the reason why, I'm going to get into it in a second here, but sugar is highly addictive. Scientists have proven that sugar is 8 times more addictive than heroin, and you all know how addictive heroin is. So I'm gonna highly recommend that you wean yourself off of sugar, and you adopt a lower carb lifestyle. Now, how do you do that, you might ask? Well, I'm going to share it with you. If most of what you eat is leafy greens or vegetables that are the full color of the rainbow spectrum, and that's most of the carbohydrates you're eating, that's perfect, because that does not come with a lot of calories. You can eat a ton of leafy greens every day, which is going to give you a lot of micronutrients, and it's going to give you a lot of benefit in terms of fiber. But for the most part, when you're chewing vegetables and breaking them down so your body can absorb the nutrients, it's not a lot of calories in those vegetables, which is great. Okay. So secondly, I will say you want to make sure as well that unless you're extremely active, your body typically doesn't need starch. I know that many of you, like me, I grew up and the first thing I did before I went to school every morning was I had a bowl of cereal. Now, nothing wrong with that. I grew up fine. Could I have benefited from having more protein at breakfast? Absolutely. Would I have been leaner and more ripped as a late teenager and through my 20s? Absolutely. So you can start that now. If you are not as active on a daily basis as you used to be through your teenage years in high school or through university or your 20s, then guess what? You don't need the starch, folks. You will get enough energy from the protein and fats I'm going to share with you in a minute, and the leafy green vegetables that you're going to eat more of. And And I haven't touched on fruit, but fruit is important because you can get a lot of nutrients from fruit. But I would encourage you to stick to one piece, maybe 2 servings of fruit a day maximum, just because the sugar in fruit, which is fructose, a lot of bang for your buck. It goes a long way, and you don't need a lot of it. And by eating a ton of fruit, it just your fructose goes to the roof and just causes your blood sugar to increase. So you don't need a ton of fruit. As valuable as fruit is, consider fruit to be maybe something that you would have after lunch or dinner for a dessert, because it is sweet. So that is the information on carbohydrates I'm going to share with you. So if you can imagine having a dinner plate in front of you, 2/3 to 3/4 of it should be leafy greens or some sort of vegetable, preferably a fibrous or a root vegetable, or even an above ground vegetable. And then the rest of your meal I'm going to discuss right now. So protein is the essential. Protein is king. Now, there are many advantages to the vegan lifestyle. I am not a proponent of that. I'm a huge proponent of you're going to get a lot more benefit from having humanely raised animal protein. One thing that you want to do is you never want to have carb only meals, because again, carbs break down into sugars. And when you have nothing but sugar, and it could be super healthy, it could be broccoli, it could be an apple, it could be rice, whatever, all good for you and going to give you tons of nutrients and value, but again, it breaks down to sugar. And when you have nothing in your bloodstream but sugar, guess what? Your blood sugar rises, your insulin goes up, and typically when your insulin and your blood sugar are high, that's the perfect storm for your body to store fat. So whenever you're eating, whether it's a snack, whether it's a tiny meal because you're on the go, you want to make sure that protein is the first thing that you want to have, because protein is the building blocks of your tissue, your amino acids that break down from protein. It's critical that you have enough protein that you're getting daily, and what you'll find is that it's satiating, it's filling, and usually with animal protein, even if it's super lean, you're going to get a little bit of healthy fat with it. So those two combined pack a really good punch of decent amount of calories. They're gonna make you feel full, gonna make you feel satisfied, and you're not gonna want to, you're not gonna be craving to eat again in an hour like you would if you had a carb only meal. So one thing I would also recommend is start your day with protein. So when you get up in the morning, whether you eat first thing or whether you wait a few hours, if you're intermittent fasting or if you're time restricted eating, and I'll explain more of those in another video. But if you are, whether you eat right away or whether you have a delayed first meal, it's breaking the fast. You want to make sure that you've got protein in that first meal of your day. That's going to help keep your blood sugar stabilized and lower. And it's going to also give your brain that energy right out of the gate, because contrary to popular belief, due to the process of gluconeogenesis, your protein does break down and convert into sugars, and that's what fuels the brain. So you don't need carbohydrates first thing if you want to look better naked. And folks, try this for 3 months, and I would love to hear your feedback and your comments, and just tell me how you're looking, how you're feeling. Another big reason why protein is so important and so valuable is it helps strengthen your immune system. And what are we going through right now in the world? We're going through all these viruses that are mutating and that are knocking people over sideways and keeping people very ill. Well, if you're doing your part to keep your immune system strong and robust by getting good quality lean animal protein, and you're taking the right supplements, which I'll go into in another video, to help keep your immune system strong, you're probably going to be pretty resilient to fight off things that are going around. For years, I think I had a stretch of almost 4 years where I didn't get sick at all. Even through COVID, I never got sick. I didn't get sick for the first time in 4 years. Was just this past fall. So I attribute a lot of that obviously to me eating high quality lean animal protein and supplementing really, really well. Another thing that protein does for you folks is it helps repair your muscle tissue. So if you are someone that works out really, really hard, or you're really consistent daily with your activity and your intensity of your workouts, protein is going to help you recover. So if you wake up from a workout and you're just stiff and sore and you can barely move, protein is going to help you. Obviously there's lots of other things as well. Water, stretching, getting a massage, sauna, but protein is the big one. So last category I want to talk about today is fats. Fats, by eating fat, doesn't necessarily make you fat unless you're eating a large quantity of fat on a daily basis. But contrary to popular belief, fat does not make you fat. What makes you fat is a ton of carbohydrates. So if you want to look better naked, you want to make sure that you've got a little bit of healthy fat with every single meal. And it doesn't have to be a lot, folks. Like, we're talking about a teaspoon or a tablespoon of healthy fat that you're going to have 2, 3, 4 times a day. It's not a whole lot, but it'll go a long way because fats are packed with calories, and they're going to, again, just like protein, it's going to help you feel fuller longer, and it's going to help you feel satisfied. So you're, again, say for instance, if I'll share with you my breakfast that I had at 11 a.m. Was 4 eggs, and I had some organic ghee with it, about a tablespoon, which is just clarified butter, and that's all I had. So you don't need to have a ton of carbs at breakfast. Now, later in the day, do I eat carbs? Yes. My second and third meal of the day, I have a ton of vegetables. But for my first meal of the day, because I'm trying also, like you, to look better naked, I want to make sure that I keep my blood sugar low. So when you, in the absence of carbohydrates, when your body becomes fat adapted, which is what you're doing on a low carb lifestyle, your body begins to burn fuel at rest, when you're sleeping, and even when you're exercising. If it's at the right intensity, your body will burn fat for fuel, which means all the extra fat in the areas you don't want will eventually burn off by you being adapted to having more protein, more healthy fat, and lower carbs. Your body, over a matter of weeks and months, depending on where you're at, everyone's different, your body will start to burn fat for fuel, and you will crave sugar and carbohydrates less. So it's very, very important that you give this time. And if you've been someone who is you love carbs, and your body has been, you've been eating tons of carbs for years or decades, it's going to take a while for your body to come off that craving that it loves from that sugar high. So don't get discouraged if you get headaches or you don't feel well, the first few weeks on a lower carb nutrition plan. It does take time, and once it happens, I guarantee your brain will click on. You'll have way less brain fog. You'll have way more energy, and you probably, to be fair, your joints won't ache as much, because typically when you do have a ton of carbohydrates, it creates inflammation. And when you get your joints inflamed, like say you have a sore shoulder, if your shoulder's inflamed and all of a sudden you change nothing, except you have less carbohydrates, maybe it lowers your inflammation. It might, maybe in a few weeks, your shoulder won't hurt as much. And that'll be proof alone as to why low carb lifestyles are the way to go. So I hope that helps, folks. I'm coming to you every week with information that's going to help you become a better version of you and make you healthier. So even if I can help one person become healthier from the information I'm sharing, it's a win-win. So again, let's recap, folks. The 3 major macronutrients that your body eats or drinks: carbohydrates, protein, and fats. You can guess which 2 of those 3 are essential, and the third one you typically don't need. Now, you can live off of protein and fats for a prolonged period of time. I wouldn't recommend you try it for many months or years, but your body does not consider carbohydrates as essential. You could do without them. How do you think the people in the north, the Eskimos, the Inuits, how do you think they've lasted for hundreds of years? How do you think hundreds of years or thousands of years ago people adapted when they didn't have carbs readily available every day? They survived. So just like them, you can also survive. Now, would it be hard? Yeah, it would be really, really a struggle, and it would be challenging to have 0 carbs for a month or 2 or 3, but you could do it. So what I'm suggesting to you, and I'm hoping that you take away from this, is I'm not suggesting no carbs. What I'm suggesting is lower the amount of carbs you're eating. Even start off your day with a protein and fat breakfast or first meal, and that'll make a huge difference right there. And if you feel you do need some carbohydrates at breakfast, then maybe have a handful of leafy greens, or have too many cucumbers, or something like that. Something green that's mostly water and fiber, that's not going to increase your blood sugar. But hope that helps, folks. Going low carb will help you long term, and that is the goal. As busy parents and as busy professionals, we want to perform at a high level on a daily basis. And I guarantee if you start to turn your health around and your brain clicks on because of the food that you're giving it, I guarantee you're gonna notice a massive difference with your productivity and your performance and your results a few months from now. So I hope that helps, folks. I've given you 3 suggestions and 3 ways to look better naked. Eat less carbs, make sure you have protein at every meal, and making sure you have a little bit of fat with your healthy protein, lean protein at every meal. And I guarantee if you follow those 3 rules of thumb, you're going to be living a much better life, and you're going to feel much healthier. So we'll talk to you again next week, folks. Have a great rest of your week. And next week, we're going to dive into supplements. Very, very important that you supplement, especially during this time of year. And I'm going to dive into my big 4, and I'll go into a few others as well that you might find helpful and beneficial. So stay tuned next week, and we'll talk about supplements. Have a great rest of your week. Take care, folks. Coach Glenn out.